Now, I'm not a big fan of comparisons in the automotive industry, but when you get one vehicle that's so similar to the next, hey, you've got to at least take a look. Hey, and welcome to This Edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Robertson. This week, we are behind the wheel of the 2015 Nissan Altima, really following up after our test drive behind the wheel of the 2015 Hyundai Sonata. And what we found was just so many comparisons between the two that we got to take just a moment and really look inside. Looking at the profile of the Nissan Altima, you're not going to mirror it with that of Sonata, but they kind of hold the same premise. After all, they're both mid-size sedans, so they kind of take that same premise with that sloping roofline. Now, this is a new dynamic approach to a lot of vehicles, really giving you that kind of coupe-like styling, a low roofline, versus decades ago where they were more maybe a little boxy and not so pretty. Now, what you're going to find here on this particular model is similar chrome accents like that of Sonata. You're going to find chrome around here on the windows, on the door handle, and maybe a little bit up on the grille. Now, on the Sonata we test drove, they added a little bit more bling. Actually had a kind of a lower element down here on the lower panel. On the Altima we show here, this is more body color all the way around. By the numbers, both the Sonata and the Altima measure in within fractions of one another, meaning they pretty much came from the same playbook. Now, by those numbers, it's about 191 inches overall with the wheelbase of around about 109.3. That means you're going to get about equal interior comfort across the board. Now, again, looking at the profile here, that kind of coupe styling we talked about, and again, a lot of vehicles are adding these black inserts throughout the vehicle to really minimize that chrome that I'm not a big fan of. Now, when you look at what they're sitting on, typical is going to be 16-inch wheels with the optional 17-inch as well. One area on any vehicle that has to have that presence has to be up front in what I refer to as grille warfare. Now, between these two vehicles, both the Sonata and Altima have great stage presence, both having a huge sweeping front grille, this one with the black insert, and a huge lower fascia. It really allows a lot of airflow through. Now, both are delivering dynamic headlights, really setting apart it from the rest. Now, again, on Sonata, what they did here on the hood is give a lot more chisel. This one's a little bit more sleek, a little bit more refined edges, maybe what you saw on the previous Sonata model. So really between the two, one has a chiseled-like look, one has a little bit more refined, rounded edges. With any vehicle, really ease is at the forefront of anything you do, and really it all starts at the point of entry there at the door handle. Now, just like Sonata, the Altima came with the smart key system, pretty much allowing you to leave the key in your pocket and forget about it. Now, just like Sonata, it has the same kind of point of entry. You can't go up to any door with it in your pocket and it'll open right up. Nope, you got to go to the driver door, press the button one time, unlocks this one, press again, opens it all up. Now, just like Sonata, we wish this had more of an innovative type system, pretty much allowing you to go to any door, pull on the handle, and it opens right up. Under the hood is where you're going to find the power, and between the Sonata and Altima, they're pretty much tit for tat. Now, here on the Altima, it's going to be a 2.5 liter inline four-cylinder engine. That compared to the Sonata, which is technically a 2.4. But either way, horsepower is within fractions of one another. Here with the Altima, getting around about 182 horses and 180 foot-pounds of torque. Now, the difference here with the Altima is they actually have one more power plant as an option, which is a V6. That was Sonata, which is the end of the story. There just isn't one. Now, here on the Altima, if you upgrade to the V6, that's going to be a 3.5 liter and deliver around about 270 horses and 251 foot-pounds of torque. So obviously you want that V6 power. Altima maybe is your only choice. With any sedan, one crucial area has to be the cargo, because if you can't bring the people and their gear, there's no sense in going. Now, one comparison we had, Altima versus Sonata, is Sonata had that kind of smart key system that when you walk up to the back of the trunk, it senses you're there, 3 beeps, and the trunk actually pops. Now, we didn't find that here. Instead, it's just the old standard electronic release, pops up and gives you pretty quick access to the back area. Now, what we found is still the same wide opening, allowing you to really throw items in pretty quick and easy. Now, by the numbers, the Altima falls just a hair short, falling in about 15.4 cubic feet. That compared to the Sonata, that measures in about a cubic foot more. Now, just in case you need to add more cargo, just like we did on the Sonata, they have these kind of pull tabs right here. And what that allows you to do is fold those 60-40 split rear bench seats. Now, what you do is you pull here, and it is slightly a stretch to get back there and push it down. Now, likewise, you pretty much have someone inside to help you tumble those forward. Now, with all that seating kind of laid down, you're going to easily get close to double the amount of cargo you'd otherwise have. Last but not least is under the cargo floor. What you're going to find is typical carpet, and then maybe a pad that takes just a hair getting under, and then another pad. Now, Sonata did make this a little bit easier, kind of really with one floor with a handle, and you pull on it and it gets out of the way. Now what you're going to find under here is now a foam area that's going to hold your jack and some other little storage, and then you finally find the spare. Now this appears to be a full-size one, but at least you have a spare nonetheless in case you get into a jam and got to change the flat. Design is the key feature, and here at the back end you're also going to find nice taillight assembly with this kind of sweeping like look. Again, a big pronounced kind of add-on for a lot of vehicles and the design. Now one thing we did find missing back here compared to Sonata was kind of a built-in rear spoiler in the trunklet assembly. This is kind of a little bit more straightforward with more of a straight edge and not that kind of sporty like look that we were expecting. One last thing to think about at the back of any vehicle, of course, has to be safety. And a lot of vehicles are coming with a backup sensor-like system, allowing you to kind of zero in on anything that might be in the way. Now here on the Altima, that wasn't the case, but it did have kind of backup blind spot awareness, pretty much allowing you to sense any vehicles coming that you may not see ahead of time. Now the biggest thing to me when you're backing up has to be items in the way, and what did help with that was, of course, the backup rear camera. Really gives you a good view as you're backing up. By the legroom numbers, what you're going to find between the two vehicles is they pretty much are identical. Now, what you're looking at is about 45 inches here in the Altima with about 36.1 inches in the rear. Now, those compare to the Sonata, pretty much all it is they added a 0.5 extra inches of space up front and actually took away 0.5 inches in the back there on Sonata. So just a flip of a coin, because pretty much once you start moving these seats around, legroom numbers are going to be all over the place. Innovation is a key component for any vehicle, and really both the Sonata and the Altima deliver that quite well, with just a few differences between the two, biggest being the display on the Altima being a hair smaller than that of the Sonata. Both have ease of operation, nice touchscreen with a few buttons around it, really with the Sonata edging out with a little bit on the ease of operation. Now as you scroll down, you're going to find dual climate controls just like Sonata. This one being the same ease of operation, really with the dial-in specific temperature that you can set. Now one thing we didn't find this area were the heated and cooled seats like that of the Hyundai Sonata. This one only really coming with heated seats that you control between the front passenger and driver. Both vehicles did come with extra connectors, pretty much right here with the USB and the auxiliary jack and a power outlet. Now in this area, the Sonata did have dual power outlets just the same. Now what they did is actually in this vehicle take the extra power outlet, put it between the center console, something we noticed the Sonata was missing. Here in the Altima, you're going to find traditional gauge cluster with a huge speedometer and huge tachometer. Now one thing we did not find was right between the two gauges and that digital kind of readout for the speedometer. What we did find was a lot of other information, pretty much allow you to kind of toggle through, but what I really had preferred was a precise reading on the speed I was driving, something I really got used to there on the Sonata. Now as for the other steering controls, you're going to find the radio and settings over here, maybe a little bit cumbersome as you try to get used to it, because naturally I wanted to kind of set the volume by pressing this up, but actually it's kind of down low. Now one thing I expected when you got a heated steering wheel is to find the button somewhere around here. Actuality, it was actually found way down there on the dash, kind of tucked away, and something you'd otherwise forget about. Letting the light in, of course, is key to a lot of people, and you can do it right up above you. Now here on the Altima, it's pretty much standard operating procedure, which is pretty much a simple opening with a little bit of glass to boot and let some light in. Now there on the Sonata, they actually had a little bit more of this, actually encompassing the whole ceiling area, giving you a lot more light on the situation, and maybe just a little bit more airflow. Safety is the biggest concern that anyone has with any vehicle, and this vehicle really harnesses a lot of that, again with that backup camera, kind of that backup blind spot awareness, and even the blind spot awareness here that illuminates orange should a vehicle pull up beside you and you don't see it. Now another key feature really has to be the ability to get out of this car in those tough situations. Really it all starts here at the door handle. Now this vehicle right now is running and the doors are locked, and let's say something really drastic has happened and I need to get out of it. Now typically you pull the handle, of course it's locked. Typical cars, you pull it again, it actually will release then and the door will open. Well, not in this case. You can pull all you want and this vehicle is not going to open the door. Instead, you actually have to fumble around, find this little release here, then the door is going to open. Now to me that's kind of a big safety concern, because when something should happen, should this vehicle go into water, you're not going to have all your senses, and the only thing you're going to know how to do is pull this handle and try to get out. Ergonomics are of course key to any comfort, and really Nissan has nailed that when it comes to that, really with this leather and the enveloping seating to feeling quite comfortable compared to the Sonata, which seemed a little less plush with the cushioning. This one, of course, gave me a lot more support all the way around. Now, as for seating position, what we found in the back seat compared to the Sonata is that it feels just a hair more comfortable, a little bit more plush again on the cushioning, and again, typical spacing, just like we found in the Sonata, with great knee room between the seat backs. Now, one area that we always talk about has to be the back seat passenger's comfort, and we have nice air vents that's going to blow back here. On the Sonata, that did come with heated seats back here. We don't have that on the Altima. Now, one last thing is elbow support, and one thing we did notice is that it's a little bit low. Then on Sonata, actually had it built in, and the elbow support was quite higher and offered great comfort. Here, it's a little bit lower and a little bit past that typical ergonomics that your backseat passengers are going to want. And that does for this edition of Road Warrior and a test drive behind the wheel of the 2015 Nissan Altima. Again, a kind of a big comparison we made to the Sonata, which has similarities there on paper. The biggest difference really being in the eye of the beholder, again with the Altima coming with that extra V6 power should you want it, and maybe a little bit different styling cues overall. So at the end of the day, on paper they look relatively the same, but in person, maybe that's the biggest difference. So again, I'd like to thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior, and as always, keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.
Yeah.